What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Falcons Today. Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about who Atlanta was linked to on the defensive line, a two-time Super Bowl champ, and then ESPN came out with a very intriguing article that had a best prospect for all 32 teams outside of round one. So we'll check out who they selected for Atlanta. But let's start with the biggest need for the Falcons, which is a pass rusher, because the two-time Super Bowl winning defensive end, Mike Danna from the Kansas City Chiefs, was linked to the Falcons by Pro Football Focus. Now, day 3 pick in 2020 out of Michigan. He comes off a career-high 6.5 sacks last season. Let me just I'll give you my blunt analysis in a moment. How about I give you guys what Brad Spielberger from PFF had to say? Danna is the epitome of a solid, high-floor player who understands his role, controls his gap, and makes plays when they come to him. He's not the burstiest player off the line, but he does well to drive opposing tackles back into the pocket. In an increased role in 2023, we saw him improve at detaching his hands from blockers to get after the quarterback. For me, it's really simple. Insert any edge rusher you want, and my answer is yes. I don't care who it is. I don't care how old they are, how big, how small, how fat, how tiny they are. There is not a bad name that the Falcons could sign at edge rusher because they need bodies. They are one injury away from D'Angelo Malone starting on this team. Sorry, D'Angelo, but no. They need edge rushers. They need players to get after the quarterback. They are the worst franchise in NFL history at pressuring the quarterback. So I don't give a rat's ass if it's Mike Danna or if it's someone else on the street or if it's your freaking mailman. Whoever it is, yes, I'm in. I do not see a bad option because the only worse option is doing nothing. And that's what they're doing right now. So with that all being said, let's take some look at Mike Danna here and his career, what he did last year for the Chiefs. 50 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, and 3 pass breakups for Kansas City. I know I just went on a bit of a TED Talk and a bit of a rant there, but if I'm trying to think logically, what is Atlanta's plan at edge rusher? This is my best stab at it beyond just they're sitting on their hands doing nothing. I do think there are some smart minds over in Flowery Branch, and my guess is this is the reasoning for why they haven't made a move at the spot yet. One, I think they are waiting for players to drop their price. They know that it's a waiting game and players will be eager to sign, and if they wait out some of these veteran guys, which they waited last year on guys like Bud Dupree and Calais Campbell, they can get some decent pass rushers. Those two guys had 6.5 sacks last year. My guess is they are waiting on certain players to lower their price a little bit. That's number one. 2, they're not looking to overpay on a trade. They had a couple of edge rushers in mind. Montez Sweat, who went to the Bears, was someone they had circled. And ultimately, another team offered more. And it is clear that Atlanta is not going to overpay, whether it's in the free agent market or in a trade package to get a guy. They've got a price, and they're not going to go below or I guess above that price. I'm sure they go below it. So that's reason number 2. And then number 3 is I think they are banking on Raheem Morris, a guy with a long history on the defensive side of the football, to develop some of these younger players, right? They are looking at Lorenzo Carter, Arnold Ebiketie, Zach Harrison, even though I just kind of chewed him out, D'Angelo Malone. They are looking at some of these younger defensive ends and edge rushers, and they go, we have a great defensive-minded head coach in Raheem Morris. We used a 2nd and a 3rd round pick on Ebiketie and Harrison the last 2 drafts. How about we see how those guys pan out before we just turn to the free agency market and sign players that are going to take snaps away from them? That is my best answer as to why Atlanta has been so freaking stubborn at adding a pass rusher. If they don't, this is the unit, right? These are your top pass rushers from last year. Add Grady Jarrett into the mix, but you'll be 30 years old. He'll be coming off a torn ACL. And it's not like he tore his ACL in August. Like, he tore it, halfway through the year, which means he may need some time at the start of 2024 to really ramp up and trust his knee and get back to 100% speed. Sorry. So I'm confident a signing of some level is coming. When? I don't know. I don't know if it's before or after the draft, right? That's the next marquee event in the calendar. Will Atlanta wait till the draft to see if they get the guys they want and then they don't have to go out and sign a Calais Campbell? Or if they were banking on getting player X and he gets taken one spot before them, then in the first few weeks of March, they bring in a Calais Campbell or Bud Dupree as their plan B option. That is my suspicion as to when you could see a signing happening, whether it's after the draft or maybe a little bit before the draft if, hey, they get out of their draft meetings and they decide there's no one we really love at pick 43, and we still want to get another edge rusher if we do or don't go Dallas Turner at 8, so let's bring back Bud Dupree and pair him with Turner at 8. So what's your confidence level in this defense? Scale it 1 to 10 for me in the comment section below. 10 being it's the 85 Bears, 1 being it is going to be the worst defense in football. I would put it at a 5, kind of right in the middle. Maybe even like a 4.9. They got to earn that 50% mark from me. All right, next up on the show, ESPN has a perfect prospect for Atlanta after round 1 of the draft. We're going to check out that prospect. But first, quick shout out to today's sponsor, Game Time. Spring is here, which means we've got Braves baseball to watch, along with playoff basketball soon and hockey. And you should not have to miss any of the action because of ticket prices. With Game Time, you can get killer last-minute deals and all-in prices for all the big events. Download the Game Time app today and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase, because there is nothing more frustrating than spending time searching for the best ticket prices, and then you discover it's not even the accurate price. Well, with Game Time, there's an all-in option, so you can actually see what you will be paying before you get to the checkout process. It's the best place to find last-minute seats. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's talk about who ESPN thinks would be a good fit for the Falcons, as Matt Miller selected Cam Hart. Now, this is outside of round 1, and, well, it would definitely be a decent spot for him. I mean, Matt Miller said it's not even a guy he has a first, second, or third round grade on. Now, the other needs that ESPN identified for the Falcons included wide receiver and edge rusher, with Cam Hart being a cornerback for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. In his career, 2 interceptions, 19 pass breakups, and 32 starts under his belt. So a guy that's got loads of experience in the collegiate ranks, not one of the younger guys coming out after just a few years. Now, here's what Matt Miller had to say on Cam Hart. If the Falcons solve the edge rusher hole in round 1, finding quality cornerbacks on day 3 will be a value play. Hart is a 4th rounder on my board, but the 3-year starter didn't allow a touchdown in coverage in 2023 and had 3 forced fumbles as a tackler. Last year for the Fighting Irish, 21 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 4 pass breakups, and 0 interceptions. I like the idea of adding more depth to the cornerback room, which we'll peek at next, but personally, I'm just not super high on Hart as a prospect, right? After reading that article and doing some research on him and watching some tape and whatnot, I didn't walk away wowed. But if we're talking about a guy to get in round 4, you're likely not going to find a lot of players that just blow you away. But when it comes to adding more strength and depth at the cornerback position, 100% agree with what Matt Miller has to say. I mean, you got A.J. Terrell as the only sure thing in the cornerback spot. Like, Clark Phillips entering year 2, we'll see what he has. D. Alford has kind of been a seesaw so far in his Falcons career, but you are one injury away from having scary bad depth at this position. So you brought in D.C. Christian Lake, who is a specialty with the secondary. He's got some work to do with Richie Grant and the rest of the Falcons corners outside of Terrell. But For me, I think you can never have too much depth at this spot. When you think about the cornerstone pieces in the NFL, it's quarterback, wide receiver, edge rusher, and cornerback, right? Those four positions go in round one more than any other spot. I'll toss in left tackle as well. So you can never have enough good corners on your team. It's why you see a lot of teams stock up on them right now, because as the game progresses towards a more pass-heavy offense every single season, well, you're going to need some good corners to stop those good quarterbacks. Now, who do you want to pick after round one? We all know that you can go with a great pick at spot number 8 with Dallas Turner, Rome Odunze, or Malik Neighbors, but ignore those big names for a moment. Let me know in days 2 and 3 of the draft who your number one target is for the Falcons. I'll toss out one that might not be my favorite, but just a name to keep an eye on. What about Keon Coleman? If he even makes it out of round one, he's kind of right there on the bubble. He could be a really fun name to keep an eye on. 11 touchdowns last year for the Seminoles. He's 6'3", 6'4", huge frame, so that would complement Darnell Mooney and Drake London very nicely in this wide receiver room. Now, he did not test super well at the combine, but it's a good reminder that you play football with helmet and shoulder pads, not in your underwear, which is what they do in Indianapolis. And when Keon Coleman's got helmet and shoulder pads on, he is a very fast wide receiver. So maybe the combine testing kind of drops him from round 1 to round 2. And if Atlanta goes Turner at 8, they could go wide receiver at 43. As for day 3 of the draft, I don't think you can have too many pass rushers added this offseason. So I'll go with Mohamed Kamara out of Colorado State, I beg your pardon. You want to talk about productivity last year? He's your man. 13 sacks. I don't care what conference you're playing in. If you got 13 sacks, you are someone worth keeping an eye on. So I like this addition for Atlanta in day 3 of this upcoming draft. All right, that will do it for us on this edition of Falcons Today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Always appreciate those of you who watch all the way to the end of the video. So scroll on down and drop an ATL if you're still hanging out with me.